Okay. Yeah, everybody all set? All right, good afternoon. I have 12:03. I will go ahead and call this meeting, January 23rd meeting of the Southmost Regional Water Authority to order. Let's go ahead and confirm that we have a quorum, and we do. I believe Mr. Cowan will be joining us a few minutes late, but that we have sufficient quorum. You said there was no public comments for the record? No, thank you. Well, then we will proceed with item number 1 of the open meeting agenda. Item number 1, election of officers of the Board of Directors of the Southmost Regional Water Authority. Let's go.
Good morning or good afternoon, Mr. President and members of the board. I'm here because right now is that time of the year that we elect current officers, and pursuant to Senate Bill 1161 of the state of Texas 67 legislature, which was 1981, in accordance with Article 3 of the bylaws of the Southmost Regional Water Authority, of the Board of the Directors shall elect from its membership on the slate of officers. And right now we have the information here. I can read them all out right now. We have as president, Dr. Jude Benavides, representing the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. Vice President, Mr. Roger Nelson, Valley Municipal Utility District Number 2. Treasurer, Ms. Gabriela Fernandez, representing the City of Los Fresnos. Secretary, Mr. Ralph Cowan, representing Brownsville Navigation District. Board Member, Mayor James Chambers of the Town of Indian Lake. And Deputy Secretary at this time would be myself, Marilyn Gilbert, Brownsville Public Utilities Board. Each Board of Directors shall subscribe the constitutional oath of office and serve his or her term until the successor is appointed and qualified.
Okay, since we don't have everybody here, have we spoken to those listed and if they are willing to accept these positions?
I'm going to have to defer with staff because I know in this item they just spoke to me. So I'm sure that they spoke to the rest of the members about the various different things. And I was assuming we were going to have a little bit more members present at this time.
Yeah. Yeah, at the least, I'm not sure about Mr. Nelson. He was planning on showing up. So why don't we, I'll go ahead and exercise my authority as current chair to go ahead and let's push this back. If you don't mind, I'll go ahead and make a directive motion to push this back to after item number 5 and see if additional members show up, and we can we'll decide what to do there. Vote on the 2 of us and or wait and see if additional board members. So, do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and make them. All right. We have a first and a second to go ahead and postpone item number 1, move that to the fifth item on the agenda after number 5, so we can reconsider that at that point.
Okay.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None heard. All right, we'll postpone item number 1 till after item number 5. Moving on, item number 2, consideration and possible action on approval of December 5th, 2022 board meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Yeah, you need to make the motion.
Oh, I'll make a motion to
All right,
approve
thank
that
you. I heard
December
that first, and then I'll second the absence of other board members. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None heard. Item number 2 passes. Number 3, general manager's report, operation and finance report. Ms. Gilbert.
Thank you so much. And here we'll have the production and distribution report for the month ending of November 30th. And here he is.
Mr. President, members of the board, my name is Jose Armando Garza, and I will be presenting the production and distribution report for the month ended November 30th, 2022. And this is going to be on tab 3 of your board binder. I'm going to start on column C for the year-to-date distribution from SRWA, and that is at 409.481 million gallons for a daily average of 6.713 million gallons per day.
Can we go ahead and slide these up so folks can see, or anybody online? I know we have paper copies, but I don't think they all do. Yeah. Thank you.
Jumping over to column F, we have the PUB distribution, and the year-to-date is 369.496 million gallons for a daily average of 6.057 million gallons per day. Under column G, we have the distribution for Balima number 2. The year-to-date is 10.533 million gallons for a daily average of 0.173 million gallons per day. The column H, we have the distribution for Los Fresnos, and the year-to-date is 20.034 million gallons, or an average of 0.328 million gallons per day. The column I, we have the credit for B&D. The year-to-date is 8.599 million gallons, or a daily average of 0.141 million gallons per day. Column J, that's the allocation for Indian Lake, and the year-to-date is 0.819 million gallons, or a daily average of 0.013 million gallons per day. Below that, we have the true-up. So we can see the BPUV is under by 10.95 million gallons. Valley Mud is over by 0.255 million gallons. And the city of Los Fresnos is over by 10.7 million gallons. Any questions on this report?
None for me.
Okay. The following report we have the production and distribution for the month of November 2022. And on the third column from left, we have the total water produced for November, and that was 208.067 million gallons. And that's for an average of 6.936 million gallons per day. And on the column to the far right, we have the total water distributed, and that's at 205.081 million gallons, for an average of 6.836 million gallons per day. Below that we have the chemical consumption for November 2022, and the chemical consumption was at 83,445.74 cents, and the electrical consumption was at 119,781.65. The next page, this is where staff reports prolonged outages that reduces the production of the plant. For November, we have no prolonged outages or shutdowns. The next report, we have the water production and distribution comparison for fiscal years 2022 and 23. As you can see, for 23, we're over what we were producing back in 2022. Any questions on this?
No.
No.
Thank you.
And for this other report, this is a comparison of the water treatment plant productions for plants 1, 2, and SRWA up to date. The up-to-date total production for BPUV is at 1.2 billion gallons, and SRWA is at 30% provided 30% of that demand. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
I have none. Thank you.
No question.
Okay, thank you.
So before we proceed with the financial performance, I do want to notify at this time that we did have a couple of representatives come visit SRWA. We had representatives from Webb County along with Legacy Water District to come in and do a tour of the facility, and they were very impressed with the various things they're trying to create. The same situation down in the Laredo area, Webb County area, the same similar plant. Their depths and wells are much deeper than ours, and so we're fortunate that ours are at around 250, 300 feet versus they're closer to 1,000 feet. We also had representatives from Kennedy County. Some officials came in to also tour the facility. And we also had our state representative, Jamie Lopez, come by and also tour the facility. She was also very happy about the various, progress that we have done and was over the last 20 years of production. As some of you know, she represents, I believe, Los Fresnos and some of the other communities, part of Brownsville, part of the Port of Brownsville, and she was also very impressed with the facility. So with that,
Great.
if there's not any questions, I'll turn it over for the financial performance report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is George Rangel, and I am the finance manager here at PUB. And I will be going over the Southwest Regional Water Authority financial performance as of November 30th, 2022. And so I'm going to go ahead and be concentrating on the far right column labeled fiscal year 2023 year-to-date numbers. And so we'll start off with line item number 3, total operating revenues, which are made up of the member assessments, coming in at $1,348,476. The next couple of lines are going to be our operating expenses, which are made up of personnel services, materials and supplies, repairs and maintenance, contractual and other services, and depreciation expense, giving us a total operating expenses of $599,601. We subtract that out from the total operating revenues, gives us operating income of $748,875. Moving on to the next page, we're going to go over our non-operating revenues and expenses, which total up to a net non-operating expense of $59,543, which we subtract out from operating income, gives us a change in net position of $689,332. We add that to the net position at the beginning of the year of $20,188,590, gives us net position at the end of the year of $20,877,922. And then we did also include some detailed information on the expenditures if y'all have any other questions.
I had no questions. All right. Thank you.
I have a question,
Sure.
just real quick. I notice here, are we purchasing more membranes, or those are the ones that were going to be sent back to check? The
I
life
would
of
refer
them.
to
You can come to the mic, please, just for the. Thank you.
Every year we budget for membranes, and if we don't use the funds, they will roll over for next year. For 2023, at this time, I'm not expecting on purchasing any membrane. So if we don't, those are going to roll over.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or?
I think that's it. Thank you very
Thank
much. Appreciate it.
So the next item, we have the drought update, and Renee Mariscal will be presenting that, and some of the, also answering some of the questions and updates to our stage 2 rollback.
Good afternoon, President, members of the board. Rene Mariscal, Water Resource Manager. As of January 7th, U.S. combined ownership at Amistad and Falcon stood at 32.27. As a matter of fact, I just received a more recent as of January 14th, which still remain at 32%. We've been pretty steady over the last several months at about above 30%. This will continue to track. Here you see the last couple of years, 21, 22, and you'll see we're beginning 2023 just slightly lower than what we did last year. So we'll definitely track that. Obviously, of concern would be once we hit the summer months. You know, you can see the last summer we got as low as 20.7. We'll see what this summer brings. One difference is that, as I mentioned previously, Mexican reservoirs have quite a bit of water. So hopefully that alleviates, some of our use down here. Not so much our use, but their, releases, which could help aid us. Seasonal drought outlook for our area, we still remain in drought development likely. You'll see our area there. As a matter of fact, there's another more recent that just came out. It still keeps us in drought development likely, but up in the west, the drought persists. It increased up in the west of the country. So a water conservation team, PB Water Conservation Team met on January 6th to discuss the stage 2 restrictions. The team made the recommendation to rescind stage 2. So here on 13th, there was a press release, notified the public, and we're remain in stage 1 now. So we back down to stage 1. Stage 1, just as a reminder, that's when we're at 51%. So it's now a voluntary stage. refresher on stage one requirements. It's similar to stage two, only we're now on it's a voluntary basis.
I think we can read that. Real quick question, previous slide. Who's on the water conservation team?
It's various managers from the different, it's a multi-departmental team from.
Is that a
PUB.
PUB team or is that?
Yes, yes, PUB
Okay,
team,
PUB team.
from different departments, PR, different folks.
Okay.
Okay? That's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Mariscal? No? All right, make it rain, Renee. Thank you. Is
Thank you.
that it for your report? Ms. Gilbert?
That concludes the general manager's report, yes.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Moving on to item number 4 then, consideration and possible action to approve the purchase of 2 variable frequency drives.
Mr. President, members of the board, the Southern Regional Water Authority uses 2 variable frequency drives, BFDs, to operate high service pumps 5 and 6. The BFDs control the motors for the high service pumps to sustain adequate water pressure in the water distribution system. The existing BFDs are 19 years old and obsolete. The staff is proposing to replace the existing BFDs with newer model. The staff is requesting a Rockwell software Allen Bradley BFD for the following reasons. BPUB has standardized the supervisory control and data acquisition, SCADA, human machine interface, software system on the Allen Bradley platform. The BFD is the same automation family as the SCADA system, which will allow for a direct integration with a programmable logic controller. By standardizing the equipment, staff aims to achieve a single automation platform that SCADA maintenance personnel are trained on and can manage proficiently. A maintenance contract is in place with Allen Bradley for a 24-hour day troubleshooting support. This contract is for the other water treatment plants that we have in place. I quote, for 2 new Allen Bradley BFDs in the amount of $209,000 was received from Midcoast Electric Supply Incorporated, the sole source supplier of Allen Bradley BFDs in South Texas. This purchase is in accordance with the Texas Local Government Code Section 2252.022A78D, procurement of items available from only one source. SRWA staff recommends approval of the purchase of 2 BFD units from Midcoast Electric Supply, Inc. of Park, Texas, for a total amount not to exceed $209,000. Any questions?
Yes, I do. You see, I see sole source supplier. I really don't like that phrase. If it's only, obviously, you already say you're requesting a specific type, right?
Right.
And make, okay, which, I mean, it's kind of a follow on that. If you're requesting a specific type, then there's probably going to be only a single supplier of, well, not necessarily, but let's not, my biggest question is when we do this, I would really like to see cost comparisons to other models that are out there. Okay, I completely understand staff's position, and you have a good justification, but we need to be able to make it. We have no idea as board members the range of costs for these things, right?
Right.
And if you can provide us that in the future, that would be very, very helpful. Even when it's not something that you would like, you could say, here, these are here, these are here. But we do need to know in the situation, if, for example, something is 50% of the cost, but you're trying to keep something here because of other issues, whether it be the SCADA system or an existing contract for troubleshooting. I think we need to be able to look at that. I don't have a serious enough concern with this issue right now, given the age, to hold it, but I will entertain the opinion of other board members on that issue.
When we go, when did this come to the board to go out for bids on this? Request proposal, so, you know, because I don't remember us discussing buying this.
So this is, I think, when we would do it, right? We wouldn't,
But this is to buy it. This
Right.
isn't, you know. But they're, to do what you're talking about doing, which was getting, they're functioning right now. right?
Yeah,
They're working. But,
If you want to look at other models,
Mhm.
why award this bid now? Because that's going to give us 19 years before we can go look at it again.
Yeah.
I'm not probably going to be around that. So I just wondered if we wanted to, if we should think about slowing down and just, if we want to look at other models and see what else might be available. And what are we going to do with the old pump? Are we going to redo them or what are we going to do?
yeah, no, the pumps are gonna stay the same. It's only gonna be the control. This is what actually controls the pressure and the speed of the pump, right? And what staff wants to do, our electrical stuff, they want to standardize with Rockwell, a system, because that's what we have at the other water plants. We have Rockwell, and they are trained in Rockwell automation.
Everybody understands about that.
Okay.
I was wondering if there anything else might be compatible to Rockwell. Because in this here, it's an Allen Bradley, it's not a Rockwell.
It is a Rockwell software, Allen Bradley BFD.
I didn't hear you.
It is a Rockwell with an Allen Bradley software.
Allen Bradley.
the software is Rockwell, the variable frequency drive is Allen
Okay.
Bradley, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to get all this straight.
sure.
I was familiar with all the systems. I've been on board for a while, as you are, they run the day-to-day business. So. And they're functioning right now. But,
They're functioning, but whenever something goes wrong, we're having a hard time getting the parts because they're obsolete. Sometimes staff is going even to eBay and trying to get a,
yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But see, right here, it doesn't say anything about these, I'd rather do these being obsolete. All it says is the procurement's only available from one source. So,
the existing BFDs are 19 years old and they are obsolete.
understand how old it is, but it doesn't say that it's obsolete. There are things that are 19 years old that are not obsolete.
Yeah, but they're telling us that right now.
I understand that,
Okay,
but we're also buying it,
It doesn't say it.
buy it right, huh?
Yes, they're telling, yeah, we have a choice. Let me, before we go any further with this, and we don't, and we start splitting some hairs. We have two options. We can approve it right now with the directive from this board that in the future, when we have this type of situation, that they provide us with cost comparisons or go through the bidding process. I'm not exactly sure if that bidding process is necessary here or if it's standard. That's beyond my knowledge of standard operations when it comes to this. You all can comment on that. The second is to go ahead and table it till next month until we see that process or information. But I don't necessarily, the reason why I wanted to request those cost comparisons is to avoid that. I don't necessarily want to go through the entire process of bidding if there's only a source of fire and we're already using these others. I just want to see the cost of the other items so that we see if it's $10,000 versus whatever it is. I doubt it is, but if it is, we need to know that. If it isn't, and we're going to save $5,000 or $10,000, and we're going to talk about it for 3 months or 5 months, I say, let's just go. That's my.
But if it costs $200,000, there is,
No, the issue is we got to replace. There's no question in my mind, we got to replace.
I'm.
So then what are we talking about? That's what I want to know. If you want to say, if you want it in writing, we can table it. You want it in writing that it's obsolete here on the document and that it has to be replaced, then they can go back and do that along with cost comparisons. Is that what you would like to do? Okay.
I just simply want to know. I have no way of knowing this is a sole source. You know, I I don't know who else is out there that sells them, I don't know, we need to look for a bid, but we should, we need to so, of existing source. So
Nor do I.
I don't know what the level is where we have to go out for bids, or we have to do something. I know we have, the general manager has authority up to a certain amount. To sign off on that.
This is beyond that. This is beyond that.
And yes, this is, so,
That's why it's here. So
yeah, I realize that. And so,
I'm still confused as to what you're asking. Sorry.
well, what I'm asking is, I'm not real comfortable with the way it is right now.
Okay.
I'd like to be able to next meeting.
All right,
Because
then,
I don't think everything's gonna work from now to next meeting. It'll be on the first month, well, it'll be on the first of February, or is that right?
yeah, I'm not gonna let it doesn't break until then. So that's why I'd asked. We have two options, and I was gonna ask your information if you wish to table, that you could make that motion. How about you?
I just want to add that this quote is only good until March.
Okay.
For one more month.
We'll have
So we
one.
need to request an additional quote.
Yeah,
Are we meeting on February the first?
we'll be in February the 1st, hopefully, maybe, well, that's only a week away, so we may have,
Did you get the information at that time, or we need to wait till March?
We'll request another quote for
Yeah,
other,
because-
from other vendors and can have those.
yeah, what we've
numbers.
done in the past, Mr. Cowan, what I'd like to do is when we have to, whatever, on the issue of meeting, I'm only discussing that during this issue because it's relevant to whether or not we table it and we have sufficient time. We weren't able, often in January, we're not able to meet the first week because people are gone, vacations, whatever. And we had some other issues happen that delayed us a little bit. So I would not want to have a meeting on February 1st, something this is the first week. We would probably have it February 8th. To give folks a little, to gap a little bit and then move to March or the first Monday in March. So that would give you a couple of weeks. Can we get that information by then?
We can certainly try.
Okay,
Yeah.
if we, and what date in March is this contract or,
Says here,
good for?
March 31st.
The 31st of March? Okay, so we'll have March as well? Okay. All right, so would you like to make a motion then, Mr. Cowan, that we table?
We'll make- the Meeting's gonna be on March the 31st.
No.
The quote,
This quote is good until March 31st.
Oh,
We have
yeah.
February and March.
Oh, okay, well then, we're not gonna miss anything by doing this.
One other question before you, go ahead and make the motion.
Make a motion, we table this and bring it back in the first meeting.
Sure will.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second to table this item to the first meeting of March. I would like to make a friendly amendment to that motion, that if the information is available in February, they can bring to us in February. If they have information that you need, is that okay?
That'd be pretty hard, that, because they're going.
I'm just saying if, that's all. The friendly amendment saying if it's available, why not address it in February? As well. If not, we address it in March. How about saying when it's available? That way we don't tie ourselves to March. I don't think that's an unreasonable request.
We need, if March 31st is the deal, we're gonna have our meeting February the 8th and March.
Mr. Cowan, just say yes or no. I'm making a friendly amendment. You have the right to say yes, you have the right to say no. Asking,
I would like us to do it first meeting in March.
okay,
And then give us more time to get,
then I would draw my friendly amendment. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, great. I have a first and a second on the issue. Any further discussion to table the item until our meeting in March? No further discussion?
No discussion.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, just for clarification, February 6th is a Monday and February 13th is the Monday, so it's not February the 8th.
6th or 13th, yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. All right, item number 5, discussion of the SRWA audit conducted by Internal Audit Department.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board, Melida Pinales, Audit Manager, and we have the internal audit team.
Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so as you've mentioned, the agenda is to give a recap of the audit that was conducted for the SRWA that included part of our annual plan for this year. And on our scope, we included an evaluation of the internal controls for the period of October 1st, 2019 to September 30th. And we also reviewed job descriptions, we interviewed personnel, and we conducted field testing. On the objectives, these are the objectives that were sent out for the announcement letter. I'll go over them briefly. We reviewed policies, procedures, work instructions. We looked at the data management for supervisory control and data acquisition system. We looked at the assessment of priorities and scheduling of work teams. We looked at the departmental records. We looked at the records maintained for installation, removal, and disposal of assets, the adequacy of material requisitions and returns process. We looked at the files for vehicles, equipments, tool checklist. And we also looked at the adherence to the safety procedures, the proper personal protective equipment, and any regulatory compliance. And we looked at the job safety analysis form. So these were all the things that we looked at. Our overall opinion, key internal controls need improvement. The areas that need improvement include process documentation, contract administration, invoice reconciliation, system access control, and the audit resulted in 12 findings. And then other minimal issues were conveyed to management during discussion during the audit. So these things were not reported. Once we're doing an audit and something is taken care of, we go ahead and just remove it from the report itself. So these are the 12 findings that we have. I can go through them briefly, what we recommended and what management, so overall management agreed on all 12 of them.
Okay.
On the first one, they currently have 34 work instructions. 18 of them are outdated, obsolete, or not all inclusive. The recommendation is for them to update these documents. Management agreed, and the completion date is scheduled for April of 2023. On the second one, having to do with not in compliance with contract administration procedures, this has to do with a contract that was rendered for $50,000. However, it had not been signed or approved, and the vendor was already doing the work. They had not provided the fee schedule or the scope. So they had already initiated the work. They had billed us for $48,000 already, and it was not itemized. We recommend that they comply with procedures for any future items. They need to be signed before any work is initiated. And then on the management response, they will ensure that this is done immediately moving forward. On number 3, the contract and invoice approval process. We also identified an invoice for $15,000 that was not itemized. There was a completion date. However, the contract exceeded 120 days with no amendment. So whenever there is a contract, if the contract is, let's say, for 60 days, and then they go beyond that, then it requires an amendment. So on that one, we also recommend that they comply with the section for method of payment and monitor contract. And management also agrees that should have been done immediately. On number 4, on the contracts administration, a BPUB is budgeting for the SRWA janitorial services, and currently SRWA does not have a contract in place. So we recommend that they either coordinate with purchasing to include the SRWA in the scope of work for janitorial services, or create an independent contract for SRWA. Management agrees, and on this one, I know they had indicated in their response that they currently had a staff that was performing these services, but due to COVID, they had done away with it, so they were using the BPUB janitorial services. Management agrees, and they'll start working with to decide what's going to be done internally, if we're going to continue, amend the budget, or what needs to be done. So
Okay. I was unclear.
Yes, sir.
on that. Okay. So the option isn't just either staff. We haven't made that decision yet.
Correct. And management agreed with the recommendation, and it's the completion date, it's either this month or next month. I don't know if staff wants to elaborate on any, or if we're
I don't
fine.
think it's necessary.
Okay, very
just
good.
wanted to make sure that decision had. been
Okay,
made.
and then on agenda item on finding number 5, this one has to do also that there is no contract in place for legal services. And we are recommending for them to coordinate with purchasing to bid out a contract. And I know currently BPUB is already looking at this, so it'll probably fall in place, and we want to make sure that we get the same prices as PUB, or try to negotiate something that's reasonable. And then management agrees that this will be taken care of by June of 2023. Any questions?
So the attorney for our board and for PB in the past has been one and the same.
Yes, sir.
So you would allocate a percentage of that bill and let the board know what that's going to be or what the billable rate was or whatever. That what's going to happen and what's going to happen.
Once management decides, or it needs to be taken to the board, first of all, to determine who's going to be, if we're going to continue with the same company or if
You
we're,
know about going to the PUB board first.
yes.
Yeah, and then this board doesn't make. I understand that, you know, PUB is the umbrella that we were under. So at the same time, when we are going to pay for it here, even though PUB can outvote us and do whatever they want to do, but it's not, and it's not what we've done in the past, and it's not the way we do business with partners. So are you going to let us know who you're looking at and how much the rate is going to be? Or how is that, what is the recommendation going to be going forward? Are you going to keep the same attorney you have now? Are you looking at a new one? What is the rate will be? Because we used to have, in the past, we had the attorney sitting in on our board meetings. I don't know if that's necessary, but they may want to look at some of the board bid packages and things to make sure that everything was.
Mr. President, if I can address,
Right.
at this time, it's really up to this board to decide if you want us to use the same board council or SRWA. This is a separate governing body, and I leave it up to the board president and the members of this board to give us the direction. If you want us to go out for an RFP, we will be happy to put out another RFP specifically for SRWA. In the past, typically it has been the same special counsel has been assigned to the SRWA board as a matter of convenience, and we have each item by subject matter. We do not bill anything that is PUB related to SRWA or SRWA to PUB, and everything that's related to SRWA has a separate matter that is associated with that. And by that, I mean, if, for example, there is a question about the procurement for SRWA or the posting of an agenda item, then that goes to the SRWA designated attorney for that matter.
Probably more practical to keep the same attorney.
Okay.
But I think that we should be aware of who the attorney's going to be and what the billable rate's going to be and what the proposed budget is and what it's been in the past and what it's going to be. They're just the simple things. And I don't think we've had that. And, you know, I'm just trying to go forward now.
I think that would be covered in, the way I understand it, but I do agree with you, Mr. Cohen. I think I was uncertain about what it said there as far as we'll be working alongside the PUB and we'll take actions commensurate to PUB's level of covenant. What does that mean?
That's management response. They can elaborate.
Okay? Kicked right over to management. That was, it just says PPR executive management,
Page 7, on the,
middle of it.
yes.
Some nice wording, but I don't understand what it means. And I think that's probably what might help address some of Mr. Cowan's valid concerns.
And I think it just, you know, famous Spanish cuentas claras at the start of blancas, you know, so that's all I'm saying. Which means clear, if you have a clear county, then good relationship.
I agree.
So, yeah,
Can someone explain what that means?
well, are we going out for,
No, I
you're
think
not, okay,
my hope is that we continue this interlocal, I mean, we have this interlocal agreement to operate and manage. And then what we can do is, if what it means is not only BPUB's level of covenant, but to add to that, our agreement as well, right? That we have the right to, let's say the costs are exorbitantly high or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
or the attorney isn't familiar with us, or we don't like the way he,
Yep, we should have some say in that if it's an
we have some problem with him. So, we'd like to be able to, I think if the board's gonna stay independent, it should have
I agree.
say so, that's all.
I agree.
I realize I may start a revolution saying some of these things.
No, I've been here 3.5 years with this and I've never had an issue discussion with legal, but it may come up, particularly when we're talking about expansion and other issues.
I've
We
been
should
on
be
the
able
board
to say exactly what
about
you're
10
doing.
years, and I haven't.
Yeah, but it will come up at the most
And-
inconvenient time.
I think that if we have it all very transparent.
Okay. Can we add to that? Or can we have management add to that, and I think that's an important point. I think that would also, but I also like to know what the heck that means, level of covenant. Can somebody explain that later?
I'm going to refer to the author on this one.
Work on it, get back to us, please. Okay?
Okay,
Not exactly sure.
and we'll do,
I've never heard it before and I have no idea what it is.
These are simply recommendations.
I understand. I just want to know what the recommendation is before I sit here and nod my head.
I did too, so.
Got it. So in addition to that, describe level of covenant, please, to us later when that's available. And secondly, add something to the effect of that we will be able to review when necessary what the outcome of that interlocal agreement is as far as what attorney it is, how much it's going to cost, et cetera. So we can have some review of that. And if we get, if we object and get overruled for whatever reason or whatever, then we can cross that bridge when we get to it, if we ever get to it. Won't know that bridge is there until we have that information. Okay,
Okay, so
all right.
who's our attorney now?
ETRG from San Antonio. Davidson Trolio from San Antonio.
I can't understand.
Davidson and Trolio from San Antonio.
Davidson and Troy. Davidson.
Okay.
So I'll give you, there's several special counsels that are assigned, and so depending on the subject matter it is, if it happens to be, for example, a Texas open meeting, inquiry would be the attorney of record would be Frank Garza. If it has to be on a water matter, it would be Patrick Linder. If it had to be contract, Patrick Linder. So it depends on what the subject matter and specific needs on a legal interpretation. And I can also come back with legal fees and things of that nature.
Just as simple as
Mhm.
board members knowing for sure who the attorney is.
Right.
Because we take one now, I don't know who he is. Haven't, so since we changed from maybe the legal.
Okay. All right, go ahead and continue.
Okay, so moving on to number 6, this one has to do with land reconciliation. So this one, the finding has to do that the senior right-of-way agent and SRWA have not performed land reconciliation of all groundwater well sites to include in our Microsoft Dynamic GP system. So we have a system where we track all of our land, all of our assets, anything that that requires to be in that list. So we're recommending for them to coordinate and to submit all updates to accounting. Management agreed, and this will be finalized by May of this year.
Okay.
On finding number 7 has to do with capital assets. So any asset that is over $5,000, we also have that same program where everything needs to be submitted. So we identified some items that are not or have not been submitted. And we also recommend for them to submit all necessary forms to accounting to ensure that our system is updated. And then also management agrees, and this will be completed by April of this year. On number 8, this one has to do with inventory control. So these are items that are less than 5,000, anything that we see out there. So we identified that they had outdated lists of new or even used equipment, no controls for chemical expiration or inventory quantity. So we're recommending for all of these lists to be updated. They agreed, and completion also March of 2023. Moving on to number 9 on the system access controls. This has to do with the access granted to employees. And we were not able to identify any audit trail of any new or former employees that have access to this. So currently the process is just being requested through a phone call. So on this one, management agrees, and they're working on a procedure for this process, and they will request a form from management for any changes or any updates. And then the completion date would be April of this year.
Can you explain that again, or management, when you're saying granting SCADA system access?
Yes, so that's
External, granting somebody, operation access to SCADA system, for example, opening and closing a valve remotely or
Correct.
starting or stopping a pump?
Correct.
And when you're saying we don't have a list of who has done that and when, is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
Authorized to do it.
It should be management. So that's what we're saying. We can't trace anything.
That's another issue. Who's authorized? I'm hoping that everything, yeah.
And that's why it's a finding, because what we identified was it was just a call. Add Mr. Cowan to have access to our system, just an example.
Got it.
So what we're saying is there needs to be some type of audit trail.
And I think they should have whoever's, when they grant the access, they put that in there and the employee number. That way, if we had somebody opening a valve that wasn't supposed to do it, they wouldn't grant the access because each one of those persons would have along with their employee ID number, have some kind of a little stamp of some sort of three number code or something that when you know it was them.
Okay.
Validation.
Okay, so moving on to number 10, this one has to be that we were not able to identify any tracking of motor and pump inventories and warranties. So we're recommending for them to develop a written procedure to standardize the motor and pump warranties. And they've also agreed with this, and a written work instruction will be developed to standardize warranties, and the completion date will be by April. On number 11, on the annual budget book, SRWA has not published this. So what we're trying to do is streamline the way we have it with BPUB, where we have key performance indicators, where we have goals, we have objectives. So they also agree with this, and they're going to submit their documents to finance, and the estimated completion date is May of this year. And then number 12 has to do with records retention. We identified 18 boxes that have met records retention and 10 boxes of records that have not been reviewed. So the finding is that they're not in compliance with the BPUB's records management policy. We recommend that they coordinate with records management to ensure records are picked up and disposed of properly. Management agrees, and the completion date is on May of this year. So we will be doing a follow-up in June, and we will be coming back to the board to see if these 12 items have been resolved or if they are still in progress. Any questions for any specific finding?
I have that question.
Yes, sir.
You said June?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
There's also timelines here
Yes.
that to be completed. Perhaps in our packet, we could have a checklist of those, and if they're completed, we can then know that these items have been completed, or if they have to change the date when the new date of completion would be, so that we can track all, to make sure that we get all these recommendations, we're in all the trouble to find them, identify them, and make recommendations for changes necessary to fix them. Then after fixing them, this one, got this right.
I think I think that's the purpose of that follow-up June meeting, because that's after all of these are done.
Yeah.
Right, so we have some in April, some in May,
Yeah.
some in June. And so in June, we'll get advised the status of these, what's not been
We're not
done.
gonna do it as.
What will not. I mean, I don't think
Yeah,
any of these are as, if you wish, we can, specific recommendations.
We can wait till June.
I think June is I don't see anything, I mean, not to say that they're not urgent, because they are important. But I think June is a good time, and I think those are reasonable amounts of time. Staff has agreed to those deadlines as well?
They're the ones that came up with the deadline.
Great, excellent.
Okay, so then we'll do the follow-up in June, and then we'll report in the July meetings so we can have the report
Yeah.
ready. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. How long did this audit take? More or less.
How many
Doesn't
hours?
have to- You don't have to speak.
Our hours are here.
I'm asking an audit.
It was 160 hours, sir.
160 hours.
Yes,
I
sir.
like to applaud that, this is obviously a very thorough set of findings, recommendations, and management. Auditing, is sort of like pulling a thread on a piece of cloth or clothing, right? You want to do it yourself before somebody else does, right? So that you can stop when you see that the damage is being done. But you can also lead to procedural process law, which we used to say in the Navy all the time. It's a tongue twister. Setting up procedures and policies for everything can lower morale, can make people frustrated, and can slow essential operations, and can lead to catastrophic results in emergency operations. people are afraid to make a decision because they're so used to just following the procedure. But I think these are all exceptionally reasonable, exceptionally important findings. It's part of the process. I'd like to remind staff and all of us that this is not I don't see it for one as any type of a negative issue. All right. It's a positive issue in the sense that this is our internal staff doing their job and helping everyone do their job correctly. And so where processes and procedures need to be updated and modified, let's make that happen. Or new processes and procedures need to be added. Let's make that happen with the corresponding hope that, as long as it justifies that issue, because I'm a big believer in folks being able to make operational decisions without a process when they need to, because we're going to have to do that at one point when the proverbial, can't say the word on public record, hits the fan. So excellent. I have no other questions. Yeah. One other question. One comment.
That is, when they bring something to the board, if it's something that has to do with the procedures that were that not been completed, the new procedures have not been completed, that we let the board know that you did make necessary change on that, the item that you're bringing to the board. So that we don't say, well, why, we're still doing the same thing. And we're not gonna wait, we're gonna wait till June to quit doing that. We figured out we don't need to be doing that, but it's not a good idea, but we need to, even if we don't have a new procedure, at least tell us what you did and why. And that way, we don't ever have problems along the line.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hernandez, any comments?
No comments.
Thank you. Excellent job. All right. There's no action on that item, correct? That was just a discussion. Okay, that closes out item number 5. We had postponed item number 1, election of officers, until we had a few more people here present. I'd like to go ahead and take that item up again. Election of officers, item number 1, election of officers to the Board of Directors of the Southmost Regional Water Authority. And if in the interest of time, we had already read on item number 1, we had Ms. Gilbert had read the officers as currently going to be slated. They are myself as president, Mr. Nelson as vice president, Mr. Hernandez as treasurer, Mr. Cowan as secretary, and Mayor Chambers as a board member. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve from the board if everyone is happy with that slate.
My office.
Excellent.
My response.
Mr. Hernandez?
I'll second.
All right, I have a first and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Somebody inform Mr. Nelson, he's the vice president.
We will.
Of SRWA. Okay, that wraps us up. Correct?
To
Good.
calendar, board
Wait.
calendar.
Board calendar. I'm sorry, yes, sorry.
Just to recognize Deputy Secretary Treasurer Maryland, that's due to John's
Oh, I mean to leave, of course, our interim CEO off. Yes, the Deputy Secretary Treasurer, Marilyn Gilbert of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. Yes, thank you. All right, sorry, I did skip an item. Item number 6, discussion on date and time of the next board meeting.
Actually, I'm looking here, each board member shall subscribe to the constitutional oath of office. Do we do this at this time or do we do it after the meeting?
We can do it. We'll do it after the meeting if you want.
you all have already done it. So we just need Maryland.
Oh, okay. There you go.
There you go.
All right. Now let's do that now.
No, yes or no?
Just kidding. We can do it afterwards.
After,
All
okay.
right, we can stand up. Item number 6, discussion on date and time of the next board meeting.
So at this time, I do want to note that the calendar is on your board packet under item number 6. The PUB board meeting is on the 13th. When we have board meetings on the same day as the PUB is, so we have the same staff that works on both packets, and sometimes a little bit hard for us to do both. Is it possible, an alternate date? I'm okay.
It's fine with me if it's fine with everybody else and it's okay with you.
February 5th, that way, so keep it on.
6.
6, okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I can do that, and that'll keep us on the Monday track. And
Yep,
everybody.
I know you like the first Monday of the month. Got it.
Yeah.
Try to have that and we'll try to accommodate that each time. We'll go with that.
Okay. SRW meeting.
in October.
Yeah, I don't think we have that kind of power.
No.
That's all right. We're gonna just also go start wearing the robes here, then keep going.
I'm not suggesting it.
All right, then
Trying to
February,
light the mood.
February 6th is the next meeting date. All right, if that's it, then I think I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First
Second.
and a second, we stand adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, aye, we stand adjourned.
Thank you, right on time. 2 minutes early.
Okay, there you go.